All right, good morning, everybody. It is Larsen Live. It's April 22nd, 2023. And how is everybody this fine morning? Yes, we opened up with DJ Keoki's Caterpillar, Rabbit in the Moon remix, because, what better song if you're a Euro trash millionaire who's getting back his misappropriated paintings? Hey, fun boys, get a room. The news is now, but first, some personal news. With me now today, is a special guest, trekking her way all the way from South Africa to my bed chambers, my lovely other half, the lovely Daphne Kruger. Say hello, Gracie.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, and she's not going to say much else. Yeah, she had the morning off. She had to go back to work around noon, but such is life. Anyway, yeah, let's go to the serious news. The nice domestic bliss of my life has to end very quickly. This is the first time I've had a live audience. Wait, what am I kidding? You're all my live audience. And by the way, since there is a lady present, could you freaks and weirdos kind of keep all the degenerate sex talk down just a little bit? And by down, I mean do even more of it than usual. Anyway, first of all, let's take a look at what's going on in my formerly great nation, the only nation that actually matters in life. Just kidding, sorry to my international viewers. Anyway, former President Donald Trump announces he's going to make some freedom cities. What is a freedom city? I'm not entirely sure beyond the idea that they're going to have a lot less regulation than the modern city. And that's about all he's put into it thought-wise. Geez, Donald, at least Walt Disney had an actual idea for his weird, kind of creepy city of the future, which is what Epcot was supposed to be. And make no mistake about it, the whole idea of less regulation, in some degree, does sound like a good thing. I mean, I'm certainly no fan of the homeowners association petty tyranny that rules many American cities and municipalities. And of course, the petty tyrants are the people who run the DMV, the people who run the homeowners association, the pedantic weenies who run the school board. Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't care for those people. And personally, I think that's what Trump is going for with his no regulation cities. The idea is a city without inane regulation and bureaucracy. But I can't help but feel that this could very easily swing way too far in the opposite extreme. The rebirth of company towns and their myriad horrors. I've stated on many occasions that I'm very much pro-union, pro-any policy that relieves the endless burden of living from the shoulders of the working stiff, the wagey, having been a wagey myself. I'm definitely not in favor of selling my soul to the company's store, as the folk song goes. I hate to say it, but Trump is a rich scion to the manor born, and he's going to act like a rich scion. Is he better than a lot of typical Republicans? In some ways, yes. I mean, as I've said many times, he didn't start any new wars, and that minimum standard makes him better than your average Republican. But in other ways, he acts like all the other rich assholes. I mean, deep down, make no mistake about it, I'm sure he would love to make Trump company towns, Trumpany towns, if you will, just like I'm sure any corporate bigwig would want to. Now, personally, assuming that I get really wealthy in the future, which we all know that's not happening, but yeah, I never could. I mean, having been a grunt wagey myself. Like, for example, about half an hour from where I live in the dirty Jers, I can go to the American Dream Mall, and that phrase, the name, does fill me with just bilious rage. The idea that the American dream is encapsulated, I should say, by a mall. But yeah, I go there and I see Mr. Beast has his own burger joint. Like, I've honestly never watched a Mr. Beast video. Apparently, the lovely Daphne has. Uh, but, I don't know what kind of conditions the, burger drones uh, are in at the Beast Burger. I mean, I'm just saying if I had a burger joint, I would be paying people a fair wage. I'd also be cooking the fries in beef tallow. That's neither here nor there. Incidentally, my lady friend, I told her about that kid who opens boxes, like Matt World or whatever, and like she had never heard of him. And I'm going to expose her to that little bit of horror after this live stream. But anyway, let's look at some comments now. Okay, let's see. Ponythroat said, "Whoa, never thought I would hear another person on this podcast." Yes, surprise. My old ex-girlfriend. She was in a couple of my videos years ago, but that's neither here nor there. C-Punk Messiah says sour grapes is a hell of a drug, and losing the election made Donald Trump go a bit crazy. Yes, he did. I can't help but feel Donald Trump is not a man who takes losing well, since he's mentally like 9 years old. Alpha Marigi says sounds like Paradise, Nevada. Yeah, there's a few like towns out there in bumfuck nowhere America that really are just like big toxic waste dumps for corporations. I was watching Geography King the other day. Dubious Equivocal says if Epcot did happen for real, all I can imagine is a real life Bioshock. Well, the thing with Epcot is, in theory, the urban planning, like, it was somewhat sensible in that, it's all kind of, you have like the big thing in the center and everything kind of goes out in, rings kind of spiraling out of the center. But being that it's a town run by a media corporation, hypothetically, it would be all creepy and weird. But the actual planning of the town is not bad in of itself, architecturally and city planning wise. Hey, C-Punk Messiah confirms that that could easily go south fast. And also, in Bioshock, I believe Andrew Ryan was sort of, like many kind of corporate tycoon characters, is sort of like half Disney, half Howard Hughes, just like Howard Stark in those Marvel movies. Yeah, Bioshock, there's a franchise that went off the skids fast. Okay, Biff Slankovich says Ron DeSantis wants to build a prison around Disney. Well, from what I gather, working for Disney is kind of prison-like, so it's not too far off. Incidentally, I do watch a YouTuber named Natalie Ever After. She's pretty funny. She's actually like a party princess. She does like kids' birthday parties. I think she works at Disney World too, at least part-time. And she kind of talks about like these weirdo parents who like hassle her and stuff. It's pretty funny if you want to see like a lady vlogger. Dubious Equivocal refers to the trumpany town with nothing to eat but Trump steaks. Yeah, I dimly remember when Donald Trump was doing some kind of steak initiative, as if he's ever been like within 100 miles of a farm ever. Okay, Ponythroat says his mouse died and he can't move the cursor out of the text box. Well, clearly you can comment a lot more than you usually do, sir. Ponythroat also says, I once accidentally clicked on a Mr. Beast video and I had to have the stable groom brush be down with wire wall. Yeah, I don't know. Am I just weird in that, like, all these allegedly popular YouTubers, like, I've never, like, seen a single video of? Am I just so out of touch with popular culture? No, the children are the ones who are wrong. My students in class are doing, like, the little TikTok dancing about. I don't get it. And meanwhile, here I am with 5,100 subscribers and going nowhere fast. Anyway, let's leave the USA behind for a while and go to Africa, because there's a bit of news coming from there. The big news being there's quite possibly a coup d'etat being attempted in Sudan. Shit is going down in Khartoum. Khartoum, of course, being a city nobody has ever thought about in the West unless you're thinking about General Gordon's last stand. And let's get a show of hands about who's ever thought of that. The government is bombing and the attempted coup people are holding buildings and such. Fighting is still going on and the situation is still ambiguous. American military forces are trying to evacuate the American embassy, but American citizens are there for the time being. Looking at pictures of the goings-on, I'm seeing the good old technical trucks being rigged up as usual. And, what better light assault vehicle can you have than a technical truck? I mean, it's good. It was literally invented by the Chadliest of nations, Chad. It's a Chad vehicle, so it's good. More news to come in the coming weeks. Okay, Alpha Marigi says, I feel you on that one. I guess he's referring to the total lack of knowledge of the quote-unquote popular YouTubers. Yeah. Ponythroat says, the view base is 100% populated by the people of the lie. I mean, do you really think it's just them buying subscribers? I mean, I've considered buying subscribers myself, but, I mean, I don't really want to. I just find it incredibly disingenuous. And let's be honest, I got into this strictly to make money. So, bought and paid for robo subscribers are not going to pay you anything, I don't think. I mean, you have your subscribers, your fake subscribers. Are they going to click on your ads? Are they going to donate to your Patreon? I don't think so. Hey, Alpha Marigi says, according to Argent, there are multiple civil wars going on in Sudan at once. Well, it's not like the situation was particularly stable beforehand. Ponythroat says Sudan recently announced that they would be evacuating American, UK, and Chinese nationals. Let's see if they can upstage Biden with this one. I don't know, let's see if we can wake Biden up sometime before noon and see if we can get anything going on here. Speaking of Africa, also in news from the cradle of humanity, that is Africa, pretty literal this time since we're referring to Kenya and the old, not the Olduvai Gorge. This is not anthropological news, it's chess news. A Kenyan man has been disbarred from FIDE, La Fédération Internationale des Échecs, after pretending to be a lady in order to win a chess tournament and get the big cash prize. Also, yes, apparently there's big cash prizes in chess. The man, whose name has not been revealed, registered under the name Millicent Awar and put on a burqa to enter the ladies division of the Kenyan National Chess Open. He hid his identity by very cleverly not talking. His guise as a devout Muslim woman fell apart when people noticed his very clearly masculine gait, and he was pulled aside, and he revealed that he was a dude. Yeah, apparently he was also wearing, like, men's shoes. He wasn't even wearing, like, fat women's, like, chunky heels. He sheepishly admitted that he is a poor boy who wanted to get that big cash prize. Apparently it was equivalent to 42,000 US dollars. Which is not bad. I mean, I'm not nearly good enough to play chess at even like a national level. But, he admitted wrongdoing and he, cheerfully bowed his head and withdrew. A female impersonator in a sporting event, sporting with the biggest air quotes imaginable, admits his wrongdoing and accepts punishment without complaint for pretending to be a lady. Now, clearly, those third world East Africans need to be more civilized, and they need to. What he needs to do is bring the foundations of the country down to demand that he be accepted as a lady, which is what first world countries do. What heathens? Am I right? Sarcasm. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I said chess is a sport with massive air quotes, although apparently international grandmasters do burn like thousands of calories during big tournaments. So maybe chess is a sport. I mean, I guess it's more of a sport than like darts or laser tag. Okay, let's see. Ponythroat says Sudan has already split in half once in recent years. Let's see if they can pull that one again. Yeah, we got Sudan, we got South Sudan. Let's get Northwest and East Sudan as well. Rick says the sequel to The Queen of Kotway is very disappointing. Yes, it is. I don't think Disney's making this one into a movie. Alpha Marie says, why didn't he pull the I identify as a woman for this day alone card? I mean, that's what I was thinking myself. Why didn't he identify as a woman? I don't know, I guess, like, the people of Kenya are much more honorable about it than, the Leah Thomases and that bike douchebag, in this country who identify as women, like, the day before, and then they just crush it in bicycle competitions. This sounds like the plot to a 90s movie, Ponythroat says. Yes, the sequel to Soul Man that nobody wanted. Chess Woman. Rick says NPR lists chess as a sport. I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure the people at NPR are really authorities on athletics. Yeah, imagine John Gomeshi being a sports commentator. I mean, the only sport John Gomeshi excels at is beating women. What? Oh, I'm sorry. He strangles women. He doesn't beat them. He's much like many other, nice, soft-spoken liberal commentators who become absolute lunatics in the bedroom. I'm pulling on my shirt collar. In art news, and still related to Africa, kind of, Lauren Halsey, an African-American sculptor, designs a monument for the roof garden of the Met. It's not great. It's some weird Egyptian LARP thing. Once again, a certain subset of African Americans appropriate Egypt, and once again, actual Egyptians are not very happy about it. Which I've gone over before, and we're going to go over it again. Also, her statue of Hathor, the cow goddess, looks like Maurice Tillet, the French angel. In the artistic sense, this monument kind of sucks. And I really hope that never again in her life does this woman construct additional pylons. Woo! I'm sorry, I've been waiting years to do that joke. Now I can finally make a joke about it. It's actually art history related. StarCraft. It's worth pointing out that actual sub-Saharan Africans don't really claim to appropriate Egypt. It's only African Americans, really. I would like to once again implore them to actually celebrate the actual cultures of West Africa where they actually come from if they wish to connect with their heritage. Or, you could just keep appropriating Egypt. Yeah, let's check out some comments. Alpha Marigi says, exercise and self-control burns glucose in the brain. Well, yes, I mean, doing something that's very intellectually intensive does burn calories. I do know that. Even reading a book, like a complicated book, will burn more calories than just sitting around. In the anime, March comes like a lion. Shogi players, shogi being Go, they eat sugar cubes during match for that reason. The Grandmaster eats pure glucose. Where does one get pure glucose? I don't know. C-Punk Messiah says, did you know that Botswana has a growing death metal scene? I knew it was growing in popularity throughout Africa. I didn't know about Botswana specifically. Overthrust is the most prominent band in that region. Interesting name. I'll have to check them out. I mean, one certainly does try to avoid overthrusting. Anyway, back to American politics. Yes, I kind of swing around the horn here, everybody. Back to American politics. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announces he's going to run for president as a Democrat against Joe Biden. Let's see how that turns out. One of his goals is to handle the obesity problem. I mean, that's certainly something I would like to do. I've always said that if I could get every fat person in America into one room and give me a megaphone, I could cure the obesity problem in 2 days. So, good for you, RFK Junior. I mean, if he gets elected, will he make a dent in the, the reign of breakfast cereal garbage manufacturers in this country? I have my doubts, but points for trying. And hey, RFK Jr., your uncle did institute that La Sierra fitness program. So, I'd be down for that if you brought that back. Said it before and I'll say it again. There was a magical time where, girls in this country looked like nymphs of Arcady dancing around the maypole, and the boys looked like Navy SEALs. That is a country I want to live in. I don't care if you call me a body fascist or whatever. Of course, people are criticizing RFK Jr. for being a bit of a conspiracy weirdo. He's an anti-vaxxer and things like that, which he is. But then again, have we not seen that there's a little bit of conspiring going on in the world? Also, RFK Jr. also keeps up another Kennedy family tradition by having lots and lots of adultery. Current wife Cheryl Hines, yes, the one from Curb Your Enthusiasm, was his side piece before they got hitched. But as I've said, I feel that all politicians tend to be men of at least mild sociopathic tendencies. I would rather you commit your evil urges with adultery than by, actively butt-fucking the country. I mean, George W. Bush didn't have any side pieces, and he was too busy, smacking the country around instead. I would prefer if our presidents were cheating on their wives and doing good things for the country, instead of being nice good boys who do bad things. Some of our greatest presidents were adulterers. And I stand by that. Okay. Alpha Marigi says, shogi is Japanese chess. Right, it is. I thought that was Go, sorry. My mistake. Yeah, Go was like an advanced version of Othello. Alpha Marigi asks, is he anti-vax or anti-COVID vax? I mean, I know he was definitely anti-COVID vax. I'm not sure if he's just an anti-vaxxer in general. Hey, C-Punk Messiah says, metal is catching on in Africa. Metal will unite us all. I sure hope so. Also, I noticed that, I think I mentioned this before, but yeah, country music is surprisingly popular in Zimbabwe. I mean, I guess rural patriarchy's got to stick together, I suppose. Alpha Marigi says, according to the U.S. Census, North Africans and Middle Easterners count as white. They paid me $25 an hour, so I agree with them until somebody pays me more. Yes, they are counted as white. I mean, they're fighting really hard to not be counted as white for, some strange reason, which is really strange because I thought there was so much white privilege just flying around in the air. What a shock. I don't know why. Dubious Equivocal says beating Biden in the primaries might be as hard as beating Biden at Scrabble. Well, I mean, they're trying to take down RFK Junior already by, calling him out for the anti-vax thing and the, Cheryl Hines thing. Let's see what happens. Ponythroat says, fun fact, if every overweight person in America jumps simultaneously, some of them might actually lose some weight. Yeah, I agree. I mean, then again, could the country take that much mass hitting the ground at once? I don't know. Okay. Dubious Equivocal says, is RFK Jr. keeping up his other uncle's habit of vehicular manslaughter? Well, I mean, let's hope not. But I certainly think, RFK Jr. does look like he's pretty trim for an older man. So I certainly think he can swim better than Uncle Teddy. Oof, that's a rough one, Larsen. More foreign news from other baby countries that don't have their flags on the moon. From the UK, this is a direct quote from an article. Do you hate the smell of BO? You might be a xenophobe. That seems a bit odd, associating foreigners with smelliness. In fact, I think that's pretty offensive. It's kind of odd that you would put this out there. What a strange thing to say. Alternatively, are the powers that be trying to gaslight us into accepting becoming, overpopulated shitholes by screaming racism at us if we protest smelly people? Oh, of course they are. We all know the answer to this one. Next week's article. Are you upset about getting your shoes dirty in your neighborhood's designated shitting street? You might be a racist. Okay. Honeythroat says, RFK running through the rallies like Alec Manassian. Yes, how could we forget Alec Manassian, the Canadian truck murderer who was really angry because he couldn't get laid, so obviously he had to run over 10 people with a truck. Thankfully, there was no mass murder this week, so let me now remind you in this brief lull that sexless weirdos have killed more people than basically anybody of all races. And yes, as the title of the stream implies, we're going to talk about weird sex stuff later on, but more on that later. Actually, we're going to get to it right now a little bit. Massive gear shift. We're going to talk about benevolent sexism. So what is benevolent sexism? And I quote this article. Was it in like The Atlantic? Might have been. For individuals in relationships, benevolent sexism predicts higher satisfaction and well-being for men and women. Men who are benevolent sexists are viewed more favorably by women and preferred by them. I'm giving a massive thumbs up off camera right now. In other words, when they mean benevolent sexism, they're not referring to the, white Sharia that weirdo online right-wingers want, But, they want the benevolent sexisms like the, swaggering Brill cream, 50s dad protective sexism that I exude every day in my daily life. Yeah, by the way, Brill cream is absolute shite, by the way, at least for my hair, which tends to be rather thick. Got to get a proper pomade. I like the Duke Cannon myself. But yes, benevolent, slightly paternalistic sexism, that's what the women want. Don't let them tell you otherwise. I mean, I remember when Mad Men was really hot on TV. I remember there was at least 3 op-eds written in major periodicals by women who were like, "Oh my god, I don't know why, but I'm really sexually attracted to Don Draper and his Brill cream 3-piece suit wearing ways." Yeah, who would have thought? I would like to imagine that. I really do think that some women, emphasis on some women, they want to be smacked on the ass and like slightly paternalized to them. Not all, but some. By my totally anecdotal ballparking, I feel that at least like 25% of women would choose to be housewives and mothers if they weren't, constantly bombarded by media saying that that's a shameful thing to do. Okay, like, look, I want to stress I'm all for a woman utilizing her talents and achieving everything she can. But let's also point out that most people, man or woman, they're not all that impressive and talented. Just men and women, I'm just saying. And, I think I'm on like the lower end of the talented scale there. Like most people, they end up working some fake make work bitch job. So, I really have to ask, is being a housewife and mother really worse than that? I mean, sorry if I'm, being a man, disbars me from commenting on this, but I really don't understand how being a barista or like flipping burgers at McDonald's or being some HR cat lady is somehow more dignified and respectable than having a family. Or, for that matter, how is having a family less respectable than spreading your cheeks on OnlyFans for $100 a month? In conclusion, I think we can all agree that women do not like, and they will never like, the hostile sexist, the gibbering incel quantifying their attractiveness through obscure and incomprehensible formulas about hairlines and like chin measurements. They don't like the female circumciser, the groping oil shake. I've never known if that's pronounced chic or shek or shake. I've heard it always. But yeah, anyway, women do adore the suave, dashing, competent man who ever so slightly patronizes them. So once again, my advice to you is be the swaggering, side-parted pompadour man. Swoop in and carry that heavy box and open the car door and sweep the girl off her feet. But, give off the quiet air of, not being a simp and, expecting something from her. Yeah, obviously, being physically attractive makes a big difference here as well. I don't think we need to insert that comic strip here of, like, what is sexual harassment and what is, like, office flirting. The joke being that it's, like, literally the same pose and the same phrase, and each one's just one is a handsome guy and one's an ugly guy. I'm sure you can guess which one's which. Okay. Let's see. Pony Throat, in his inimitable way, says benevolent sexism is when your wife burns the dinner again and you use the belt instead of the claw hammer. Progress. Yeah, your edginess is funny. Oh, don't worry, honey, you didn't burn the beer. That's an actual ad from the 50s I really like. Let me pull that up on the stream right now. Okay, so this will take, 20 seconds or so for me to, pull up here. Okay, this is an ad from Schlitz Beer. From, the olden days. Just let me pull this up. Yes, here we go. Yes. Don't worry, honey, you didn't burn the beer. Guess we're having beer for dinner. Okay, Pony Throat clarifies it's pronounced shake. Well, I mean, I had a Persian professor in college who pronounced it like sheikh. Maybe that's a Persian thing versus an Arab thing. Steampunk Messiah says, what if you have long hair? Well, yes, of course, you can have, long hair that's, well groomed and, well manicured. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, personally, I've never really, like I said, I'm sticking with the pompadour. I used to have, like, the massive Johnny Bravo pompadour, which I might grow again. But yeah, I'm going to get rid of this image now. Yep, good old Schlitz. Alright, so now we're going to go towards more media news. The Canadian Screen Awards happened the other day, and they were an absolute debacle of the message nonsense. Hey, remember when Canadian TV didn't suck? Yeah, me neither. Well, actually, SCTV was good. So that's like one show that was good. But yeah, this award show, woof. Wall-to-wall drag queens and the most ham-fisted of penis jokes. I mean, I'm absolutely loath to quote Ronald Reagan, but he did have a funny line once where he said that he's like, well, Washington is Hollywood for ugly people. Well said, Ronnie. Yeah, I'm giving a thumbs up down towards the floor for you. But yeah, Hollywood now is full of ugly people. So I guess that doesn't check out anymore, Teflon Ron. And yeah, I'm not entirely sure if the CBC Awards are Hollywood, but I'm using Hollywood as a synecdoche for media. I mean, Canadian media is basically the outlaw mud show of American media. And also the CBC, massively inbred from what I hear. Now, I have nothing against drag when it's done by adults for adults, but can we agree that you need to have some amount of, like, talent in addition to just dressing up as a female clown? Like, dressing up in, like, garish costumes, that's not a talent in and of itself. And for the record, can we stop with this argument about, like, why are you complaining about drag now? You grew up watching, Bugs Bunny and, like, Miss Doubtfire, Herp Derp. Okay, first of all, those works, like, Looney Tunes and, Ms. Doubtfire and Bosom Buddies and Monty Python, they're all kind of making fun of the silliness of a man dressed as a lady. It's funny. It is inherently silly. Secondly, I don't recall ever seeing a drag queen dress up as a nice old nanny, or for that matter, using drag to lure their enemies into a false sense of security before bashing them over the head. Maybe that does happen in the wild. I've never seen it. Anyway, yeah, the point is that at no point did the YouTube stream of this goddamn farce ever exceed more than 100 viewers at a time. I mean, I don't know what else was showing on Canadian television at the time, but by definition, literally anything got higher ratings. So yeah, hold your head up high, reruns of Jake and the Fat Man. You beat the biggest award show in Canada. Also, that might be the first time in the last 30 years anybody's ever referenced Jake and the Fat Man. Okay. Let's see. Got some comments here. Ponythroat says, woman's tendency to burn dinner is proof that things should be left to men. Well, they say great chefs are all men. Kidding, of course. Women are. My girlfriend is an excellent cook. I very much appreciate her dinner. Ponythroat also asks, since you have a South African present, can you ask her if it's true what they say about Johannesburg elevator shafts? She doesn't really know what that means. I guess you'll clarify in a few minutes. Alpha Mariki quotes the whole thing where it's like the soy jack is pointing at like the 50s advertisements. Like, no, the 50s were not like this. Nobody had a house. Nobody had barbecues. Yes, I agree. I mean, obviously they weren't perfect, but in the modern mythology where like all history started in 1963, the 50s are sort of like the dark chaos times. And I think that's a bit wrong. Biff Slankovich says the best stout beer is not Schlitz, it's Reisdorf Kolsch, which is a Kölsch style beer brewed by Brauerei Heinrich Reisdorf in Köln, Germany. That's fascinating, sir. And we're going to talk more about beer in just a second. But first, Alpha Marigi says, no more than 100 viewers sounds like competitive Pokemon card tournaments. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Pokemon card tournaments get higher ratings than the CBC Awards. But yeah, as I just said, reruns of Jake and the Fat Man got higher ratings in the CBC Awards. You'd think that the media people would get the message that nobody wants this crap, but they keep pushing that, ham-fisted message. Or maybe they are slowly getting it, considering what's been going on with Budweiser, speaking of crappy mid-market beers. Budweiser, having seen its stock plummet by about $40 due to that whole Dylan Mulvaney thing, and, the human resources cat lady promoted to chief operating officer, openly disparaging the rednecks who drink Bud in interviews. Yeah, their whole new marketing campaign didn't really go well. And now Budweiser has put out a new commercial, and it's just the most pandering, ham-fisted, America Heartland truck driving, prairie, horse shit you can imagine. Yeah, sorry guys, you can't put the chicken back in the egg, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You've shown your true colors, and you just can't do the same stuff that you used to do. Because even the yokels who drink Budweiser know when they're being pandered to. And this really was just the most obvious pandering horse shit you can imagine. Say, hey, look, it's the St. Louis Arch. Hey, remember Lewis and Clark? Remember when America was strong and pioneering? Please ignore how we put some weirdo TikToker transgender man on the beer cans. It's like they got some 90-year-old CEO in the office. He was like, oh shit, we got to bring back those Clydesdales. That's what we used to do. The Clydesdales did not save things. Let me check Anheuser-Busch's stock prices right now. Let me see how they're doing. Last I checked, they went from 100 to 64. Let's open up the Charles Schwab app, not to be confused with the Klaus Schwab app, which yells at you to eat the bugs and live in the pod. And I have to upload this crap, so while that's happening, let's check out what you weirdos are talking about. Okay, so basically, the Johannesburg elevator shaft refers to people, crapping in the elevator shaft and filling them up after, 10 years. Did that happen? Well, she's not from Johannesburg, so I don't know. She never saw, massive crap-filled elevator shafts. Apartheid ended the year she was born, so she doesn't know. Okay, let's see. But yes, apparently, lots of people from the Bantu stands went to other people's offices while they were still working, known as hijacked buildings. They were just crapping in those elevator shafts. Some people just don't know how to use toilets. I mean, even in this country, some people use public toilets like they're amusement parks. I have discussed this before, and I don't care for it. Maybe it's just because I've been a janitor at some points. But yeah, that's yeah, I don't approve of literally crapping up crapping up public places. Also, speaking of stocks, all my stocks have gone down slightly. That's wonderful. And let's look up Anheuser-Busch. Okay, Anheuser-Busch is 65.52. Yeah, they had a massive drop. And then they've gone up a little bit. So, yeah, in the last year or so, they've gone from I guess this year, 44 to 67. So, they've rebounded a little bit. But, yeah, the Dylan Mulvaney thing, not smart, Anheuser-Busch. C-Punk Messiah says Dylan Mulvaney is an interloper. Yes, I agree. There's literally footage of him saying that he's literally, I'm going to dress up as a lady to get famous. As opposed to just, being a gay dude actor, because that's a dime a dozen. Said it before and I'll say it again. I just think he's a gay guy who hates women. Okay, Ponythroat says, your girlfriend is alive, so I assume she wasn't from Johannesburg. Well, I mean, she's not a farmer. That's a whole different issue. Rick says, I thought Anheuser-Busch could never get worse than Stallone singing Dolly Parton songs in a rodeo clown outfit. Yes, Rhinestone. How could we forget Rhinestone? I mean, no matter how hard we try, we can't forget Rhinestone. Also, like, I don't know why nobody's ever told him this, but, like, Sylvester Stallone should never, ever do comedy, ever. I mean, he is a legitimately good dramatic actor when given the right role, but yeah, comedy is not his forte. Okay, Ponythroat talks about his computer. He bought a GPU for $300. It's not compatible with his motherboard. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, sir. Okay, Alpha Mariki says he was referring to Pokemon video game championships, not Pokemon cards. My beef is with the competitive video game players. I was making fun of their ratings. Have no beef with the card bros. What exactly is your beef with competitive Pokemon video game players? Is it just like... I don't remember where I read this, but isn't it just like guys just use that rare candy cheat code and they just like buff up their characters to absurd degrees? You know, it's like sabermetrics for Pokemons. I mean, I'm not particularly well versed in the Pokeverse. I didn't even see that Detective Pikachu movie. So, yes, my lady friend, she said it wasn't good. Right, so let's see what else we got going on. Oh yeah, Budweiser. Remember when Budweiser had cultural cachet? You know, they had that video game beer tapper, which I actually really like, and they had, you know, the dog and the beach, and then the frogs and the what's up? Yeah, those days are long gone. Actually, I think there might be some life in it still. I mean, we'll know that they're dead when the Dudley boys stop doing the was up thing. Hint, hint to Bubba Ray and Devon. It's been 25 years, guys. You're still doing the was up thing. Like, guys, stop. I don't drink Budweiser anyway because it sucks. But I'm definitely going to continue not drinking Budweiser because it now it sucks on a moral level, not just a culinary level. Yeah, Youngling and Sam Adams are licking their chops right about now, trying to hone in on the Budweiser market share. Okay, C-Punk Messiah says rare candies are useless as hell. I used some in the original Pokemon Red. My Pokemon was not any stronger. I'm referring to that cheat code that all the kids used to do. You could get like unlimited rare candies, and you could like buff up your Pokemon to like God Beast levels. I mean, I did it when I was a kid. Okay. Ponythroat says, do Pokemon pros smell as horrid as Smash players? My brother had a friend who was like a competitive Smash player, and he was pretty cleanly. I will tell you that where I used to live in Somerville, New Jersey, there's a store called The Only Game in Town, and they sell, you know, like Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer stuff, Pokemon cards, you know, all that kind of shit. And on Friday nights, they would have like, you know, Magic the Gathering games and D&D games. And you would like on a summer day, like a summer night, I should say, you walk by that store on a Friday, there's just this like warm funk of BO coming out of that store. So, I mean, if pro Pokemon players smell anything like, you know, competitive D&D and Magic players, they smell pretty bad. Alpha Marigi says they supported yeeting certain Pokemons from the games for competitive balance reasons. When they played tournament where Pokemon were blanket banned instead, not included in the games at all. Oh, you're talking about like Pokemon that are in different games, you can kind of link up and bring them into your new game. I see. This is a scene I'm not really familiar with. My whole experience with professional video gaming is I used to do a little bit of like competitive gaming for like old school like arcade games. Like I can still like rip and joust like that old Midway arcade game with the flying ostriches. Yeah, I will take anybody in joust. I actually did do some competitions in that. Okay, let's see. C-Punk Messiah says he likes Coors and PBR myself. Yeah, when it comes to cheap, domestic beer, I do like Yungling. It's America's oldest brewery. It makes me feel like a son of the American Revolution. It's good and it's cheap. Okay, Rick says, I miss the Budweiser penguin that parodied pulp tropes and urban legends. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah. C-Punk Messiah says it's an evolutionary feature. They don't like women in their hobbies, so the stank wards them off. Yeah, that's probably true. And we'll actually talk more about women in role playing a little bit later on. But I got to read through some more comments. Ponythroat says Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments had to add a rule that players must take showers before the game. It's true. Yes, and also doesn't San Diego Comic Con or I know some Comic Cons have a rule where it's like you have to shower at least like 2 days in advance before you go to the comic convention. Yeah, nerds are smelly people. And then Alpha Marigi confirms he was talking about transferring your old Pokemans. Yeah, so with regards to Budweiser, we're still on this. The Army tried to do the same thing. I mean, for the past couple of years, they've been trying to portray soldiers as basically therapists with rifles, doing that cartoon about I'm a woman, I have two lesbian moms, now I'm launching missiles from platforms, which, did not go over well. And recently, they put out another commercial for Army recruitments. It's again full of pandering, patriotic horse shit. And once again, it's not going to work. I mean, again, even the yokels, like the rural white shit kickers who have always been the backbone of the United States military, the guys who drink Budweiser and might be inclined to join the military, even they're smart enough to know when they're being pandered to. Recruitment is still plummeting because, it turns out when the government and the media and every cultural font tells people that the country is evil and stupid and worthless, it turns out people aren't really going to be enthusiastic to fight for it or drink in its honor. Who'd have thought? Okay, vaguely related, speaking of the LGBTs, our dear friends, the New York Times has an article saying gay men saved us from monkeypox by curtailing their promiscuity during the epidemic. The epidemic that was almost entirely started by their promiscuity and circuit parties. I mean, good for them for displaying self control, which is a lesson they didn't learn fast enough during the AIDS epidemic, but does it really count as heroism if you caused the problem to begin with? Like, if I light a building on fire and then I put out the fire, am I a hero? But, like I said, good for them for displaying self control and, strapping up with condoms. I mean, self control is something not particularly found in abundance, anyways. And, if self control can be, administered in a group that's pure yang, like the gay men, why not everybody else? So, my applause. Good job. Oh, I'm sorry. We're supposed to refer to it as monkey P or mpox because the phrase monkeypox is dehumanizing, which I talked about several months ago. Because, that's going to fix the problem. Okay, Alpha Marigi says, I was told 15 years ago there was a Castlevania game. If you use the steal command on Dracula, you get a Bloodweiser. I found no evidence of this. I never heard that either. I mean, since you're talking about steal command, I'm going to assume you're talking about like Symphony of the Night, which is legit one of my favorite games of all time. But yeah, I don't think Bloodweiser is an option. And also, my chums on the playground in the 90s, sexualities are not an option in Mortal Kombat. There is no sexuality move, no matter how hard we tried. Ponythroat says drinking Budweiser in anything's honor is a low-key insult. It's like raising a filthy glass of nothing and toast to the Lord. Yeah, the parent company of Budweiser, InBev, like that whole company is just a font of garbage piss water. It's like, oh yeah, I'm really gonna miss, let's say InBev goes out of business. Yeah, I'm totally gonna miss, Budweiser and Stella Artois and Natural Ice and all that crap. Ponythroat says, I don't recall any Castlevanias having a steal command. I think it was Symphony of the Night where you could kind of like steal items from people. Or the enemies, rather. It's been a while. I should play Symphony of the Night again, which I'll do as soon as I'm done with ADOM, which I'm, like, Jesus, I mean, ADOM is a game that could only been made by Germans. It's brutally difficult. I'm in the Caverns of Chaos. It's 50 levels deep. I'm in level 48. I'm so close I can taste it. But it's, every inch you gain is like, it's grueling. It's like World War I, this game. Rick says, gotta go. Thanks, Larsen. Thank you, sir. Alpha Mariki says it was Castlevania 64 that I was told, rather. I actually think Castlevania 64 is a very underrated game. I mean, granted, part of it is that, like, the game's very slanted in favor of playing as Carrie Fernandez rather than Reinhardt. The game is much easier if you play as the girl rather than the guy. But I actually think the guy actually has a pretty compelling story with, saving, like, the vampire girl Maria, and you can, like, redeem her soul with, like, holy water and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a game I should beat, too. I'm, like, halfway through it. But, of course, work got in the way, which is why I'm playing weirdo ASCII roguelike games. Anyway, speaking of video games from the 90s, in technology news, AI can be used to make voice copies now, and it's terrifying to me. Why, you ask? I saw a video that amused me until the horrifying implications set in. Now, the video in question was a sort of machinima using assets from Legacy of Kain's Soul Reaver, which actually came out around the same time as Symphony of the Night. I think a couple of years later. Soul Reaver was 99, Symphony of the Night was 97, I believe. Yeah, it used AI to recreate the voice of the late, great, very dearly lamented Tony J. AI Tony J then proceeded to explain the Sneed's feed and seed joke. Now, at first it amused me greatly, and how couldn't it? You see, Raziel, the store used to be owned by Chuck. Feed and seed will have the similar consonant sounds, the vowel sounds, rather. It will now be called Chuck's fucking suck. And the voice sounded pretty close to the late actor, but, having been a child in the 90s, thus having heard the man's voice constantly, I could tell it was fake. Didn't quite have the same resonance. Then it hit me. I could recognize the fake voice because I was familiar with the real voice, but somebody who isn't familiar with him wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And if you can program an AI voice that close to the real thing, who's to say you couldn't do that for any old voice, somebody who's not famous? What if companies will be run without bosses, just AI voices? What if men start long-distance relationships off dating apps, only to be snookered in by the soft, dulcet tones of AI women voices and the voluptuous curves of AI women? I'm surprised nobody's running scams on dating apps already and OnlyFans. And yes, the desire to maybe do this is like, it's very tempting to me. I've discussed this before, but I really think that something like this is what Frank Herbert had in mind when he envisioned the Butlerian jihad. I mean, not a Terminator-esque robot war, but a neo-Luddite revolution against computers that emotionally destroyed people. Computers that took people's jobs. Computers that scanned men and women into flesh pots of sheer artifice. I think that's much more interesting than just, robot shooting, which Brian Herbert wrote about because Brian Herbert's a goddamn hack. Okay. Alpha Marigi says the president arguing about videos are funny. I haven't seen those. I'll have to look into them. But yes, I'm just trying to get a grasp of the, reeling, like, abysses of horror that are coming from AI voices. Anyway, now we come to the title story. The title of the stream is, of course, Please Stop Zoomers from Talking About Sex. So on Twitter, for some strange reason, a few days ago, trending was the name Jennifer Connelly, the actress. Now, why was she trending? Was she doing any new movies? No. What happened was some, Roman statue avatar man on Twitter named Christus Victor made a very idiotic statement, and I'm going to read it to you directly. Any Zoomer who thinks right pick actress Zendaya is above average attractive doesn't understand in the 90s a 7 looked like left pick. It's Jennifer Connelly in the 90s. Above average meant something else back then. There'd be like 10 girls just as beautiful as Jennifer Connelly working at every chain restaurant. Oh boy. Yeah, Zoomers. Please stop talking about sex. You're very weird about it. I mean, he's right about Zendaya not being particularly attractive, but can we stop statue avatars? And for that matter, Zoomers, yeah, please stop with sex. I mean, sex is great. Sex is grand. Sex is wonderful. But you guys are so weird about it, and not in the good way. Boy, I gotta dissect this. Yeah, Zendaya is mid to the max. Not because she's black, but because she, as an individual, is mid. Like, look, I'm sorry, again, I keep saying this. I grew up in the 90s. I could literally watch any random episode of any, black sitcom. Like, I could watch any random episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Martin or Family Matters and see more attractive black women. Not even the main characters, just, rando one-shot characters in the background. Just saying. But yeah, not to sound like a simp, but, in what universe was 90s Jennifer Connelly a 7? Did you see The Rocketeer, good sir? I agree that in general, women were, in general, I feel like women on average were probably more attractive than women nowadays because, women nowadays are, very, very strange. Present company excluded, darling. But yeah, I mean, your mileage may vary on the heroin chic look, but yeah, it's like you go to McDonald's and see women that look like that behind the counter. What the hell McDonald's were you going to? Where supermodel level women work behind the counter. You see, this is what being born into sexual dystopia does to the Zoomer mind. It throws off their standards. This is why, half of Zoomers are like these weirdo, Orthodox Christian, celibates. And then 40% of them are, weirdo, alt-right, white Sharia now, sexist lunatics. And then 10% of them are just, weirdo, gay cat boys. This is what happens, they dream of some never land of beautiful women growing on trees. And this is beggaring my mind. Yes, mid Jennifer Connelly. Anyway, the point of all this, to tie it back to the role-playing thing, was that casting her in Labyrinth was a bit of a miscasting. I mean, yeah, Jim Henson, teenage girls that are into roleplay really look like that. Yeah, LARPers totally look like this. I played Dungeons and Dragons in high school. I assure you, the girls who get Vanity Fair cover shoots, they don't do LARP. But speaking of Zoomer idiocy, TikTok has a new challenge, the Benadryl Challenge, in which kids take massive doses of the antihistamine to induce hallucination. A 13-year-old boy who looks like Scott Farkas from A Christmas Story, he overdosed on Benadryl, and he is dead. If you want to hallucinate, just take mushrooms like normal people, kids. I mean, granted, you might be taking down a harrowing journey of racial oppression, like we've discussed a few months ago, but, chances are you're not going to die from mushrooms. Oh, Jesus, Zoomers. Can't you go 5 seconds without poisoning yourself in some idiotic social media stunt? Are the kids getting stupider, or is it just me? I mean, first they were eating Tide Pods, and now this. What are they going to be eating next? Are they just going to be eating dog shit off the street or something? Okay. Ponythroat says 90% of online communication is text-based, and that is trivial to fake. That has never bothered anybody. Seafunk Messiah says we're on our way to a Harlan Ellison dystopia. I don't think we're going, full on, I have no mouth and I must scream. I mean, I think it really is, going to be, what led to the Butlerian jihad. A sort of, fake and gay, tech world. again, I hate to praise Ernst Klein, but I think the immediate setting of Ready Player One, where everybody's just living in like shitty trailer parks playing video games all day. Like I think that's kind of what we're gonna have. Biff Slankovich asks, and I confirm, yes, the actress from Blood Diamond and the original 2003 Hulk. This genius on Twitter says in the 90s, girls like her just worked behind McDonald's all the time. C. Punk Messiah says, a girl I liked in high school looked a bit like Jennifer Connelly. I mean, yeah, there's girls who look kind of like her, but I don't know. The idea that like women like that just walked around like just behind McDonald's counters all the time in the 90s, that's a bit far fetched in my opinion. Anyway, what a lame thing to be trending for. Pony Throat says Cenobites. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Pinhead would throw his hands up and just be disgusted with like the crap the Zoomers are doing nowadays. Pony Throat says, when did getting high become a viral challenge? When literally everything had to be broadcasted online. That's when. C. Punk Messiah says, as soon as we can make men tats a reality, the better. Yes, I mean, granted, you can't play your video on Thufir Hawat, but who cares? We'll occupy our time with sword fighting and feudalism instead in the future. Mood. Mood is a thing for cattle and love play. You fight when the situation arises. I use that quote in class sometimes. Nobody gets it. Pony Throat says, I have no ball and I must dunk. Yeah, you got that right. Okay. And finally, media and pop culture news beyond the stuff we've already done already. So, on Twitter, Steve Saylor, a man who I have something of a mixed feeling towards, entirely for petty reasons. I do like some of his articles, but he is also one of the biggest proponents of the lol, nobody wants to fuck Asian men thing, a stereotype which, as you all know, I've dedicated my life to combating and being an example of the exact opposite. A hypersexual Giga Chad, a Giga Chang, if you will, but I digress. Anyway, he had a tweet that was a pretty throwaway little joke, where he joked that, memes aside, the target audiences for the J. Robert Oppenheimer movie and the Barbie movie, which are premiering on the same day, they're probably not going to overlap very much. Kind of mildly amusing, pretty throwaway tweet, right? But then, the entire community of lady nuclear scientists got really angry, and they started adding him, informing him that they are, in fact, interested in both movies. Wow, it's really amazing how these highly capable and intelligent scientists don't understand the concept of averages and demographics. Like, I'm sure in an IQ sense, these women are probably smarter than me. But I hate to say it, but man, when women feel like they're being insulted, all rationality and like high school level mathematics just go flying out the window. So for the record, I studied biological anthropology. Life sciences are going to slant more female than male, like the death sciences, which is to say like engineering. Even in my case, classes were like 70% male. I mean, cultural anthro was mostly female, but cultural anthropology is, of course, not a science. Yeah, I said it. Is it wrong to assume that the audiences for one are probably not going to go to the other? I mean, one is a grim Chris Nolan movie about the man who became Death the Destroyer of Worlds, and the other is presumably going to be a deliberately candy-coated tongue-in-cheek satire of ladies' stuff by the director of Little Women. I mean, I suppose there's going to be some degree of overlap from the right-wing autism sphere of extremely online dweebs who watch Drive and Blade Runner 2049 and go, he's literally me, with regards to Ryan Gosling. I mean, there's going to be those guys. But, I'm sorry, who else is going to see both? Like, I don't know, Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons, I guess, who entered his Malibu Stacy dream house into the nuclear power plant contest and just wrote nuclear dream house on it. And yes, that's the only other thing I can think of where fashion dolls and nuclear power are juxtaposed. Let's check out some comments here. Ponythroat says, I have become Death, the destroyer of Barbie worlds. Yes, clearly. I'm done with my prepared remarks, so I'm gonna go pull up the Ralph Wiggum thing for my own amusement. Okay, let's see. Here we go. I'm gonna save this. Okay, let's pull up a source here. Image. I'm gonna. Hot tub, media room. This is a nuclear power plant, boy, not Aunt Beulah's bordello. Thank you. Get out. Next. Yeah, I'm sorry if that's like a little bit of a stretch. I literally could not think of any other way you could possibly juxtapose Barbie and J. Robert Oppenheimer. But of course, as always, The Simpsons provides when I can't think of anything else. Okay, Jim Tuner says the nuclear physics women I knew wouldn't be into Barbie. They're not into anything but work. I mean, it's the whole meme thing is funny. Where like, since they are premiering on the same day, it's like double feature Oppenheimer and Barbie. But again, I feel like the only people that are going to see both movies are like extremely, right wing, mildly autistic gentlemen who want to see the Oppenheimer movie because they admire the death sciences, and also then go see the Barbie movie because they think they look like Ryan Gosling. Oh, look, and then she's jumped into the chat. That's wonderful. Yeah, try not to cut yourself on the edge, Pony Throat. Anyway, yes, that does it for my prepared remarks. So if anybody has anything to say, let's do it. Okay. Alpha Marie says, I want to see a Japanese Transformers live action movie where a deep state fed human villain's gun turns out to be Megatron. I mean, to be quite honest, I only consider, oh God. Okay, let's talk about Transformers. Yes, the only Transformers movie I consider to be canon is the cartoon one from '86. Yes, Pony Throat is obviously edgelord to the max. So let's give it a couple more minutes to percolate. Okay, Watt says, I caught a live one. It was entertaining while filing taxes. Clown nose smiley face. Yes, thank you. Ponythroat says, the shooter was Megatron with one extra O. Megatron, yes. Oh boy. I assume he's referring to the Nashville Covenant Baptist shooter, who I kept referring to as Alan Hale when that happened. Obviously, that is not her name. His name. The point is, it's not the skipper. Okay, yeah, so I think we're done here. So, for Larsen Halleck, I'm Larsen Halleck, also with my lovely girlfriend, Daphne. So, I will see you all next week.